our next speaker is going to bring something very diverse to what many of us have been hearing here in London or in our past events or other complementary events. So Joshua Miller, come on up. Joshua is the VP of Partnerships for SeaWorld, which is an extension of all things Cardano. And so you have our attention. Tell us all the wonderful things happening in that ecosystem.
Sure. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Josh Miller. I'm with SeaWorld, and SeaWorld is a spin-out from IOHK, that are developers of Cardano. And I've specialized in working in NFT for the last 2 years or so. And I've worked on many projects around the world. Like in this slide here, as I get my introduction to NFT opportunities for organizations around the world, I worked with Mongol NFT out of Mongolia, and we did the first Cardano NFT drop in Mongolia at a conference we held. It's a big deal there to be able to work with organizations all around the world to bring these sort of things out, not just for the chain, but also for the creators, so that we can eliminate those boundaries and those states that where it's hard for creators to get exposure, given their lineage and given language barriers and all that, to get exposure to the world. Blockchain brings that across. Blockchain definitely helps to do that. So you've got Ethereum, you've got Solana, Tezos, Cardano, etc. They help to break those barriers for creators. Mongolia is just one example, but another example would be like artists in Africa being able to sell their art at Sotheby's in London, and other cases like that. So NFTs, when we look at them for what they can do with organizations, keeping within the confines of the 10-minute talk, I look at things that NFTs are. So they're digital products. They're either art-based or they're sneaker-based, fashion-based. They're all digital products, essentially, that have underlying technology to them that help to give them some sort of identity or lock. There's enhanced engagement vessels where you can use your NFT from a branding perspective, like you see here with Champ Medici and his Bored Ape. He does that constantly with his branding. We've seen more that are out here. There's the Regen Fries that's out there. They're capitalizing on the power of their NFT and the commercialization of it. And there's branding vehicles to it as well, where you can take that NFT. It's not just your commercial entity, but it's your product entity as well. Like on the first slide, how I showed Mongol NFT, that's also my PFP for a lot of places that I go. That's how people identify me. So there's a lot of use cases in that for businesses all around the world and how they want to be identified or how they want to stand out or how they want to look to engage with users that are out there that they typically wouldn't actually communicate with. Loyalty and rewards are an excellent engagement vessel, and they have the widest reach right now because you have all these different alliances. You have Star Alliance, you have One World, Sky Team, and every airline around the world are part of that team. So when you get like gold membership and things like that, American Airlines, I think, was one of the first to actually put an NFT to your miles and your actual standing in your account. I think it's like, well, their elite tier or top tier or something like that. But it's interesting to see that they're making plays for that because it's just a matter of time before the NFT and engagement vessels can be used to combine those with miles, to combine them with perks, to where holding that NFT can automatically on the airplane get you free Wi-Fi, get you that free upgrade, get you that free little bottle of Jack to have before taking off. It's a great engagement tool that's worldwide, that lives everywhere, that people are used to, anybody that's flown. And it's something that everybody can engage with as well. So everybody has their certain airlines that they like. They like American Airlines, they like Delta, and nobody's crazy enough to fly Spirit. Why do the Frontier seats move? Things like that. Everybody has certain ones that they prefer, but they're all part of memberships and engagement vessels that can be used in order to create a broader base and bring more NFT capabilities to the mainstream. Because once they're done incurring them internally, what they can do is start to partner up with brands and fashions in the same way that United is partnered with Fifth Saks Avenue. And they can start to move out to where if you have those NFTs, it can unlock an engagement with Macy's. It can unlock some sort of engagement with Dillard's. It can unlock some sort of engagement with Reebok. The possibilities are endless there. But that's one way for an organization to create engagement outside of their own industry. You don't have to fly a plane to be involved with that. You can actually bring them in from both directions. Opportunities for tourism. Tourism's something that got heavy hit here recently with the pandemic and is slowly starting to kick back up. As you can see, we all came out to London. We've seen a lot of things going on in Miami, New York, and all around the world. Australia is a huge hub for crypto. Even I'd love to get down there. I've only been there once. But tourism itself and everything that tourism offers in these different places can be tied to NFT not only just for collectible art, but they can do things that NFT ticketing, they can do things for NFT engagement, events, tourism thing. Like you see all the people standing on the bridge over here in London talking about if you want to ride the tourist bus not. Well, they could have captured that attention much earlier, because until you get here, you don't really know about it until you go looking for it. But we're all here for a specific purpose. We all came here to come to London and be part of the NFT engagement, et cetera, et cetera. But there are things that are due around that they could have taken advantage of. So tourism companies can link up with crypto companies, NFT builders, metaverses, et cetera, and start establishing their environments. So you could have that metaverse presence in Pavia, for example, for a tourist company out of Mongolia that's going to take you around the Gobi Desert. It'd be a great preview as well, because they could build in a Gobi environment. You can get to see what it's like, know the difference between where it's rocky and where it's sanding, the camel engagements. All those sort of things can reach a user base that typically would not go looking. All right, they're interested in Web3. They're out there shopping for NFTs. Oh, what is this? It's a cool camel NFT that unlocked a Gobi environment in my favorite metaverse. Oh, I should really go and check this out. That sort of thing. The same can be said for embassies that we see around the world. There's been a big trife with embassies and big entries made into the Web3 space. For example, Barbados recently opened a digital metaverse embassy. And there's been strides made that's pretty much showing the same direction that these are going. And when it comes to people being able to travel, or also the national locals that are also trying to get their passports renewed, and it's a lot easier to navigate this sort of engagement level when you have an e-embassy or something in a metaverse. We're able to engage as something that's a lot more data richer and visual richer than having to go on a website and have to try to figure out how to navigate it. Like you go to renew your passport. Next thing you know, you signed up to travel to Korea for something. My wife did that somehow. So e-embassy can be used to not only partner with tourism and attract people to come in, but can also communicate and connect with the communities that are abroad. A fine example of that, another one would be Mongolia has an embassy out in San Francisco. So where I live in Denver, every Mongolian there's over 130,000 Mongolians living in Denver, have to communicate with that specific embassy to get their things renewed. Just recently, they got the ability to do that online. But with a metaverse, and being able to go in and talk and engage, it would eliminate language barriers. It would help to communicate back home and help to expedite things that you need. Sometimes they need to get home fast. Sometimes you need to get parents over to, you need to get parents across. All those bridges can be built using a metaverse presence, and especially with e-embassy and combining it with things, like I said, like advertising with tourist locations, advertising with local businesses, things that normally wouldn't attract you, that a lot of companies and countries have had to rely on e-commerce to break that barrier. An example would be Gobi Cashmere. That you wouldn't know of them outside of Italy, Italian cashmere, French cashmere, et cetera, until they went e-commerce. But if they were to build a metaverse store out of Decentraland, a Sandbox, things like that, things where people go and engage because it's local, it's celebrity-based, you've got Snoop Dogg working with a lot of them, things like that, and being part of that environment means you're going to get that window attention, you're going to get that curiosity. So you're breaking down those barriers and making it a lot easier to bridge over than spending all those dollars to develop something as simple as an e-commerce site. Then it's all into marketing. How do we reach these people? Let's run 1 million Facebook ads, things like that people don't actually engage with. Opportunities for government organizations. For me personally, it's like American Chamber of Commerce. It's one that I came across in all the countries that I've visited to, and they always have the connections, and they have the leadership bridging and networking events that they themselves go out and make. So it's a lot easier to connect with places like Facebook or local ones like Rio Tinto out of Mongolia. By being part of that American Chamber of Commerce, I have a direct link to that. Every week I get emails from them saying, hey, we're having this event, we're having that event, we're doing this in DC. Now, the only way to know or really explore the American Chamber of Commerce is if you're there on the ground or you're specifically looking for that. So this is another case that's similar to what you can do with embassies, what you can do with tourism, is you can have them in a place that makes sense to go and look. So you can have them on that social engagement site. You can have them on that metaverse. You can have it as part of the gaming. They can take up sponsorships in that gaming. I just played a great game out there called Necrodemic. And that was a fun one, but they had all kinds of signage in there that could be utilized by these to advertise, and it costs a lot less dollars, and in gaming you're going to capture more users, you're going to capture more attention. That's what these guys are looking for. Other businesses and organizations and their discoverability becomes a lot clearer because you have, for example, there was recently in the news about IKEA suing a game because one of their stores looked too much like IKEA. But instead, they should be taking advantage of that because now IKEA is getting exposure. Sure, it's in a game where there's horror, there's zombies, and things like that, but it's still exposure. You know, IKEA is a big deal. I've got one in Denver that people always go to, but outside of Denver or a place that I go, like unless you're in the know, you don't really know that much about these little shops, even IKEA-based or things like that you can advertise in these games and get that Web3 format and attract those ones in that then leads to digital fashion, your ability to try things on with AR. It really expands and it leads down the rabbit hole, but not in an echo chamber sort of way where you're not directed at one thing, you're directed at many things, many platforms, many builders, many creators that you can utilize their tooling. Like I mentioned, NFT opportunities for international business. I already covered that. Supply chain, digital connections, and other opportunities for logistics and skill experience organizations. So supply chain is a big one that NFTs can be used for. You can not only do the story of where it came from, but you can also validate and authenticate along the way. So when you have import-exports of something, let's say beef, you can see the journey if it came from a free-range ranch, if it came from a farm, if you can make sure that the cattle themselves were up to date on everything that they're supposed to have, and also throughout the process was proper quarantine, proper sanitation, and it also helps with grading the beef as you go along as well, because there's not that fall off and that back and forth when you're doing the supply chain works of somebody just signing a paper. Now they're actually digitally scanning it, it's digitally getting checked, all their stats are getting checked, and NFTs can be connected with things based off of NFC tags. They can be connected off of Bluetooth, things that are put in the cow's ears, animals' ears, or anything else that you're importing and exporting along the way. Skill and experience organizations are a big one that we're starting to see come up more and more. Like a couple of years ago, Google started experimenting with that with digital entry for technical support and digital entry for project management. That's pretty much supposed to be like that certifier. Well, Skillable and Skillsoft and others are taking advantage of that as well. Just last year, speaking of NFT NYC, I not only got an NFT for it, but I also got the credential on my LinkedIn profile. So skills and experience linked to NFTs can be linked, therefore, into digital identity. So digital identity contains all your attributes, everything that you've done, your education, which is validated on the blockchain. And the blockchain can be accepted anywhere because you don't have to look at certain standards, you have to look at what you're going to accept. It's like when you go from state to state and you're trying to enroll in different universities and you're trying to see what classes they'll accept, what course credit does this count for, et cetera, et cetera. All of that can be pre-done with a digital identity and that NFT proof that you completed this course or it was good for A, B, and C, this is what it covered. And it can automatically plug in that information into the curriculum and tell you what you got credit for or what's actually validated. So whether it was microeconomics, macroeconomics, if you've already done the introduction to PC desktop support, et cetera, all that can be part of your NFT credentialing connected to your digital identity. Yeah, and that's all I got.
That's all. That was great.